Kurtop here, and this is 100 mysterious signals from space that no one can decipher. Roswell Die Glocke. The Roswell disk is a mystical artifact rumored to have been found near Roswell, New Mexico after the famous 1947 UFO incident. According to some reports, the disk was part of the wreckage of an unidentified flying object. The disk was a round metal plate with a diameter of about 3 meters, with unusual symbols and markings on the surface that could not be attributed to any known terrestrial language. The material from which the disk was made turned out to be unidentified and had strange properties. Some sources claim that the disk was given into military hands and studied in secret laboratories. Those who have been able to see it have spoken of its potential connection to extraterrestrial technology and the ability to store information superior to all earthly counterparts. Over time, the Roswell disk has become a symbol of conspiracy theories and mysteries related to UFOs. Its existence is still disputed and is the subject of debate among scientists and researchers of the paranormal. The disk has become a legend in UFO circles, and many believe it is kept in secret government archives, along with other artifacts that point to extraterrestrial interference in the affairs of mankind. Fragments of alien technology. Harvard University professor Avi Loeb suggests that he found particles of extraterrestrial technology in a meteorite that fell in 2014 off the coast of Papua New Guinea. These fragments were taken to Harvard for examination, and the U.S. Space Command confirmed with a 99.99% probability that the material came from another solar system. Loeb and his team traveled to the site of the meteorite impact on the ship Silver Star. They discovered 10 spherules, metallic balls colored gold, blue, and brown, some of which resembled a miniature Earth. Analysis showed that the spherules contained 84% iron, 8% silicon, 4% magnesium, and 2% titanium. Loeb emphasized that these materials were stronger than space rocks ever recorded by NASA and were moving at a speed of 60 kilometers per s, which is faster than 95% of all stars near the Sun. These results suggest the possible artificial nature of the spherules, which could provide unique insights into materials beyond our solar system. The researchers suggest that the spherules may be part of a larger find, which they plan to explore in future expeditions. Ancient paintings of UFOs. Recently, scientists often come across images of circles and triangles on the walls of ancient temples and caves. It may seem mundane, but the presence of flying objects in medieval religious paintings is surprising. I will show you 9 paintings that, according to ufologists, depict alien objects. The Annunciation with Saint Emetius, 1486, painting by Carlo Crivelli. The ray of light from heaven in the picture is traditionally interpreted as a divine broadcast, but some ufologists see a UFO in this image. The Crucifixion of Christ, 1350, painting from the Serbian monastery of Visoki Dekani. The picture shows 2 objects in the air that look similar to aircraft. The official version says that these are the moon and the sun, although in the Christian tradition, they are not deified. The Ascension of Christ, 1710, the work of Arent de Gelder, stored in Cambridge. It depicts a disc-shaped object illuminating John the Baptist and Jesus Christ. Some believe that the artist may have conveyed hidden knowledge about UFOs. Madonna with Saint Giovannino of 15th century, author Domenico Ghirlandaio. The painting shows a flying object above the Madonna's shoulder, which is pointed at by a man with a dog. Tapestry, Triumph of Summer, 1538, created in Bruges, kept in the Bavarian Museum in Germany. The tapestry depicts 3 disc-shaped objects which ufologists interpret as UFOs. The Miracle of Snow, 1428-1432, work by Masolino da Panicale. The painting depicts an event from 4th century Rome where disc-shaped objects are visible in the air. Israel, Trust in the Lord, 17th century, painting from the Dominican monastery in Sighisoara, Transylvania. It shows a giant disc-shaped object above a burning church. Glorification of the Sacrament of the Eucharist, 1600, author Bonaventura Salimbeni. The painting depicts Jesus Christ and God the Father with a globe, which some researchers interpret as a time control panel. The Crucifixion of Christ, 16th century, kept in the Svetitskhovely Temple in Mitskata, Georgia. On the sides of the cross there are objects with human faces, which ufologists consider to be confirmation of the extraterrestrial origin of Jesus Christ. As you may have noticed, all these paintings were painted in completely different parts of the planet, but the objects are to some extent similar to each other. Sulfur under the wheel. The Curiosity rover rolls along the bottom of an old riverbed in the Gades Vallis Canyon. The stones are just stones, nothing special. One of the boulders cracks under the wheel of a nearly 1,000-kilogram machine, and a pure yellow glow flares up inside. This is not dust, not salt, but elemental sulfur in crystals. This has never been found on Mars before. Sulfur was known only in the form of sulfates, which are formed upon contact with water. But pure sulfur appears under special, almost homemade conditions, as if someone carefully squeezed all the excess out of the rock. For science, this is a gift on two fronts at once. Firstly, sulfur is an important part of the amino acid chain. Without it, there is no protein on Earth. Secondly, the very fact of its existence breaks the previous models of Martian geology. Now, the area where such stones are lying around is becoming a priority point. We need to drill, observe, and build new climate scenarios. Antarctic sarcophagi. During an international scientific expedition in Antarctica, a group of researchers from the United States, China, Russia, and India discovered an object that immediately caused controversy and concern. At a depth of several dozen meters under the permafrost, 4 dark sarcophagi were found. Smooth even, with corners and edges so perfect that they could indicate laser processing. The shape resembled monolithic slabs, and the sarcophagi themselves maintained a stable temperature above zero despite the surrounding cold. Researchers recorded a low-frequency hum and slight vibrations of the soil in the immediate vicinity of the objects, although none of the installations located in the camp could be the source of such vibrations. When one of the sarcophagi was opened, a metal cylinder was found with symbols that did not relate to any known script. Scientists put forward several versions of the origin of the find. One hypothesis suggests that the sarcophagi may be traces of an ancient civilization that existed before the last ice age. Another suggests a man-made origin and a connection to as-yet unidentified technological experiments during the Cold War. However, proponents of UFO theories believe that what we see is a fragment of an extraterrestrial structure abandoned or hidden under the ice many thousands of years ago. Despite the resonance, official data on the incident remains limited, and the sarcophagi themselves were seized for further study in closed laboratories. UFOs and fakes. One of the most sensational stories is the so-called autopsy of the Roswell alien. That very video where a strange creature with a huge head lies on the table and doctors pull something out of it. Then in the 90s, the video was shown on television to millions of people. Almost everyone believed it, but then it turned out it was staged. The creator of the video, Ray Santilli, later admitted, yes, the film is a recreation and the real film was allegedly lost. But he still claims that he saw the original and the footage matches what was shown to the CIA employees. And here's what's interesting. Even after admitting to the fake, people continued to believe it. Moreover, this fragment is now being sold as an NFT for $1 million. What is all this for? What does a fake offer? And it offers the main thing: noise, attention, faith, money. The more noise, the harder it is to distinguish the truth. The easier it is to replace reality with speculation. And here's the question: if even lies work to strengthen faith, who and why blurs the lines between facts and fakes? Dangers and mystical deaths. People reporting UFO encounters face several dangers. One of the main threats is social stigma. Witnesses are often ridiculed and not taken seriously, which can negatively impact their personal and professional lives. In addition, there are more serious risks, including psychological pressure, threats, and even physical danger, especially if their evidence involves secret government programs or military installations. There are several examples of mysterious deaths of UFO researchers. For example, James McDonald, a renowned scientist and UFO researcher, allegedly committed suicide in 1971 after a series of mysterious events and threats. Morris Jessup, author of The Case for UFOs, also died under suspicious circumstances in 1959, raising suspicions of possible outside interference. There are programs to protect witnesses and UFO researchers. Some organizations provide legal support and security advice. There are many theories about the connection between the deaths of UFO researchers and their work. Some suggest that governments or secret organizations eliminate people who have dangerous knowledge or reveal classified information. Others believe that these deaths may be the result of psychological pressure and stress associated with the study and disclosure of such data. UFO in Russia. UFOs are a topic that has always excited people's minds. Mysterious objects in the sky have been seen at all times, and ancient chronicles and myths are full of mentions of strange celestial phenomena. Of course, most of them can be explained from a scientific point of view: optical illusions, natural phenomena, or man-made objects. But about 3% of cases remain unanswered. In Russia, interest in UFOs is also great. The first mentions of strange celestial phenomena are found in Russian chronicles. For example, in 1111, during the battle with the Polovtsians, chroniclers recorded the appearance of mysterious celestial forces, and in 1240, something similar was observed in the Battle of the Neva. Of course, it is difficult to say what exactly our ancestors saw, but the fact remains, mysterious objects in the sky have been noted throughout history. In the Soviet years, the study of UFOs was approached more systematically. In 1977, one of the most famous cases occurred, the Petrozavodsk phenomenon. At that time, a glowing object was observed in the sky, the nature of which they tried to explain for a long time. In the end, the official version was reduced to the launch of a satellite. In general, the UFO Commission in the USSR came to the conclusion that most of the observations were rocket launches, atmospheric phenomena, or weather balloons. But despite the skepticism of scientists, people continue to observe mysterious objects. Especially often, reports come from the Urals, from the Chelyabinsk region. In 1990, local historian Vitaly Chernetsov told about a strange flying object over Lake Zhiratkul, which seemed to take water from the reservoir. And in 2003, in Chelyabinsk, eyewitnesses saw a UFO emitting such a bright blue light that it was possible to read by it. Another place of power is the Perm region, or more precisely, the village of Molebka. This place is called the Russian Bermuda Triangle. Researchers and tourists regularly come here, hoping to see a UFO. Ufologists even claim that they have found fragments of an unknown device here containing pure tungsten, a metal that is rarely found in nature. Altai is not far behind. In 2007, local residents observed a huge glowing ball that lit up the night sky, and then a loud bang was heard. Some say it was a meteorite, but no evidence was found. In 2010, archaeology students filmed a video of an object hovering over the taiga. The Vatican's alien archives. Ufologist Steve Bassett claims that the Catholic Church is hiding evidence of alien life in its archives and is calling on the Pope to reveal this information. In his opinion, the Church has long known about contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations, but is deliberately hiding it. Bassett cites several proofs. First, he noticed strange images in medieval paintings that, in his opinion, indicate the influence of UFOs, hares fighting knights, or trumpeters using their bodies in unusual ways, in his opinion, hint at alien intervention. Second, in 2011, Vatican astronomer Guy Consolmagno jokingly said that the Church is ready to baptize aliens if any are found. Bassett took this as a hint at the existence of a secret Vatican program to prepare for contacts with extraterrestrial beings. The ufologist's third piece of evidence is a claim by former U.S. intelligence officer David Grash that Italy discovered a UFO in 1933 and Pope Pius XII handed it over to the U.S. Bassett is calling on the public to demand that the Vatican show these archives to the world. Yonaguni Monument. Off the coast of Japan, near the island of Yonaguni, there is one of the most mysterious underwater objects, the Yonaguni Monument. This massive rock complex was discovered in 1986 by Japanese diver Kihachiro Aratatake. The structure, lying at a depth of about 25 meters, resembles giant terraces and platforms, giving the impression of an ancient megalithic complex. The origin of the Yonaguni Monument is still a matter of debate. Some scientists believe the structure is a natural geological formation that has been eroded. However, the symmetry and clear lines, reminiscent of steps and walls, lead many researchers to assume that this is a man-made structure. Proponents of the theory of an ancient civilization point to possible similarities with other megalithic structures, such as the pyramids of Egypt or structures in Malta. These hypotheses raise questions about what technologies might have been used to create such structures thousands of years ago. The most intriguing is the hypothesis of extraterrestrial intervention. Some researchers believe that such complex and massive structures could only be created with the help of knowledge and technology transmitted by alien guests. The Yonaguni Monument continues to attract the attention of scientists and mystery lovers from all over the world. Ancient alien flying machines. Here is an artifact decorated with strange symbols and images that resemble flying machines. Some researchers believe that this may be ancient evidence of contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations. The shape of the object is unusual. It resembles a capsule or a ship. Inside, there are figurines with large heads and almond-shaped eyes, which is often associated with descriptions of extraterrestrial beings. On the side surfaces are engraved symbols reminiscent of the writing of ancient civilizations, diagrams, or even star maps. This artifact could have been part of a ritual object reflecting the beliefs of an ancient people, or evidence of something much more incredible. Perhaps before us is an artifact left by representatives of another civilization. Military abductions and secret bases. Thousands of stories, hundreds of memoirs, and they all say the same thing: contact has already taken place, but not in front of the world, not live. It happened in the shadows, under the heading Top Secret. One of the most discussed cases is the story of Charles James Hall, a U.S. Air Force veteran who served at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. He claims that he worked side by side with aliens, whites, grays, and even Nordics, tall humanoids similar to people. According to him, whites could live up to 700 years, and there was contact, officially, at the level of technology exchange. According to another version, the U.S. authorities allowed aliens to temporarily base themselves on Earth, allegedly for the sake of technology exchange. A deal in the style of the Cold War, you to us, we to you. But what exactly did people give? Genetic material, permission to abduct? Yes, abduct. In the 60s and 70s, a wave of stories erupted in the US and Europe about night visits, checks, implants, and mysterious dreams that left scars and fragments of memories. Many of the abductees were not fanatics or ufologists. They were doctors, soldiers, engineers, people who suddenly knew too much. Today, these stories are ridiculed or ignored. But one fact remains: the amount of evidence is too great to simply be attributed to imagination. Insulted mummies. The theory of ancient astronauts is still popular. Its supporters claim that the gods were aliens, and ancient buildings are their technologies. Archaeologists consider this a distortion of history and call such versions aliens in the gaps, when ignorance is replaced by fantasy. Such ideas arise especially often around Peru. After the book Chariots of the Gods, the Nazca figures began to be called landing strips for UFOs, although they are clearly visible from the hills, and some of them are oriented towards the stars and water sources. The most disturbing thing is the mummies from Peru presented as alien. One of them, Maria, had 3 fingers, an elongated skull, and a frightening appearance. Journalist Jaime Maussan showed her in a film, but independent experts were denied access. Archaeologists suspected that these could be the remains of a real person deliberately mutilated. Skull deformation is a common practice among many peoples, a symbol of high status. All skulls that underwent DNA analysis turned out to be human. Not a single one was an alien. The problem is not the strange hypotheses, it's that they insult real civilizations by attributing their achievements not to them, but to imaginary creatures. Alien ecosystem. On the remote Puna de Atacama Plateau in the Atacama Desert, located at an altitude of over 3,650 meters on the border of Argentina and Chile, archaeologists have found a unique ecosystem with crystal-clear lagoons surrounded by salt flats. It rarely rains in this region, and the sun creates extreme conditions. Last April, geologist Brian Hynek and microbiologist Maria Farias discovered these lagoons while studying satellite images and went there. Despite the difficulty of the journey, the researchers discovered 12 lagoons with a total area of 10 hectares surrounded by barren mountains. Beneath the water were green mounds called stromatolites, microbial communities that form massive fossils. These formations resemble stromatolites from the Archean era of the Earth. when there was almost no oxygen in the atmosphere. Hynek believes this lagoon may be one of the best examples of early signs of life on Earth. In the Atacama lagoons, formations are composed primarily of gypsum, a mineral often found in fossil stromatolites. Hynek noted that conditions in the lagoon are reminiscent of ancient Earth. Lithium will be mined in this area, so the unique ecosystem will most likely be destroyed. Sahara's Eye. This geological structure was seen by astronauts in 1965, and from there its name came. From the air, it looks like a huge eye surrounded by green circles. This is a dolerite intrusion surrounded by stunted vegetation, a rare occurrence in the desert. The astronauts even used it as a reference point because it is the most visible structure in the Sahara. In the center of the object are siliceous breccias, special varieties of sedimentary rocks. This indicates its antiquity, which scientists estimate at millions of years. The oldest ring is about 600 million years old. At first, they thought that this was the place where a meteorite fell, but this theory was not confirmed. Then, scientists suggested that Galber Rishat has a geological origin. New research shows that this structure was formed under the influence of hydrothermal waters. One of the most unique features of the Eye of the Sahara is its ability to change color throughout the day depending on heat emission. And although there is still a lot of controversy and speculation about the origin of this geological miracle, most modern scientists believe that this is the result of erosion after the uplift of a section of the Earth's crust. UFO on the cover of an 18th century book. The discovery of an image of a UFO on the cover of a book by Johann Funk, published in 1716, has caused widespread controversy among ufologists. This image, depicting a classic flying saucer surrounded by bright lightning, is seen by many as confirmation that alien visitors visited Earth as early as 300 years ago. Despite controversy over whether alien visits actually occurred in the 1700s, the find confirms that people of the time were also interested in the idea of extraterrestrial civilizations. As always, people are divided into types. Some believe in UFOs, others are skeptical about such assumptions. Ufologists wonder about the technological development of aliens. Assuming that they actually visited Earth in the 18th century, how did their technology remain unchanged for 3 centuries? This refers to the shape of an alien ship. Baltic Disk. 2011. Swedish divers scan the bottom and see a perfect circle, 60 meters in diameter. An even furrow extends from it, as if something slowed down along the seabed for a long time and landed. The photo flies around the media. Underwater flying saucer. Millennium Falcon. Tourists book places on boats. Ufologists are already writing books. 2025. A team of geologists takes an underwater LiDAR scan and conducts their own thorough research. The structure is strange, but inside there is ordinary granite on the sections of the shell of glacial rocks. Simply put, a boulder that rolled ice for 1,000 years until it got stuck in the silt and left a beautiful alien trace. The conclusion can be made as with the findings earlier. Sometimes the perfect plate is just a stone polished by a glacier. But it was this stone that made people dive to the bottom, bring new equipment, and clearly show how science destroys myths and fakes. The stone remained a stone, and the Baltic got its first underwater geopark. Examples from Japan. The Japanese government has long denied the existence of UFOs, citing a lack of reliable evidence and fears of possible public panic. In addition, the government sought to maintain control over information to avoid any data leakage. However, Japanese pilots have repeatedly reported UFO sightings. One famous case occurred in 1986 when the crew of a Japanese cargo plane over Alaska observed 3 unidentified objects that accompanied them for 50 minutes. This incident received enormous attention and aroused the interest of both ufologists and the public. In 2020, the Japanese government's attitude towards UFOs has changed significantly. Defense Minister Taro Kono said the government will start taking UFO reports more seriously and will develop instructions for pilots and military personnel in case of encounters with unidentified objects. The decision comes amid growing surveillance and pressure from people. The Secretary of Defense has initiated the development of standard procedures for collecting and analyzing data from such incidents, and has also increased cooperation with international partners. Analysis of UFO data by the Japanese military has shown that some sightings indeed cannot be explained by normal phenomena or known aircraft. However, no convincing evidence of the presence of extraterrestrial technology has yet been found. The photo that shouldn't be. August 1990, a Scottish wilderness called Calvine. Two guys are taking a photo of the sunset, and a diamond-shaped black triangle hovering over the hills accidentally gets into the frame. Below, a Harrier military plane, as if guarding it. The guys take the film to a newspaper, the newspaper takes it to the Ministry of Defense, and the photo disappears for 30 years. 2022, the photo pops up in the cupboard of a former press officer neatly pinned to a corkboard. 6 frames, perfect focus, shadow, highlights, even a wisp of cloud reflected in the hull. A plane nearby indicates the approximate scale. The object is about 30 meters across. The Ministry of Defense issues the classic excuse, a fake. But then why the archival marking Defense Intelligence Staff and the stamp not for foreign eyes? And most importantly, why did the photo end up in a secret file if it was a fake? Today, this shot is called the best UFO photo in history. Conspiracy theorists are sure that the British were hiding the tests of a black project. Skeptics point to the double exposure of the photo, but a simple thought muffles both versions. If there was nothing interesting, the photo would not have been kept under the secret stamp for 30 years. We see only paper with an imprint of light, and what was in front of the lens still remains unanswered. Whose machine was it, earthly or alien, and why did it appear in only 6 frames in the entire history of UFO photography? Image of a car on an ancient temple. The Sagara Madu Temple, also known as Pura Dalem Jagaraga, is located in the north of Bali, 11 kilometers east of the city of Singaraja. The temple is located in the village of Jagaraga, known for the tragic event of 1849, when during the Dutch colonization there was a mass ritual suicide of local residents. The temple was originally built in the 12th century during the reign of King Raj Sri Aji Jagaraga, but was later destroyed during the Dutch invasion. Restoration of the temple began in 1865, and its current appearance has largely been preserved since then. The temple complex includes 2 temples, Pura Dalem, dedicated to Shiva, and Pura Prajapat, dedicated to Durga, reflecting their mythological roles as consorts in Hinduism. The walls of the temple are decorated with carvings depicting leaves, flowers, nagas, snake-like creatures, and human figures. Pura Dalem Sagara Madu is associated with rituals of death and destruction, as it is dedicated to Shiva. In the central courtyard, there is a carved gate called Paduraksa, decorated with the head of the mythical creature Bahoma, as well as pavilions for preparing offerings and performing rituals. This temple is unique in that its walls are decorated with scenes from the Western world, such as an airplane falling into the sea, a ship being attacked by a sea monster, and an antique car. Such images appeared because Singaraja was the main seaport of Bali in the 19th and 20th centuries, through which contact with European civilization took place. The mystery of drops discs. In 1938, in a remote area of China in the Bayan Karaula Mountains, archaeologists discovered amazing artifacts, drop discs. These discs, made of granite, have a diameter of about 30 centimeters and a thickness of approximately 1 centimeter. They attracted the attention of scientists with their unusual appearance. Each disc contains a central hole and cut spiral grooves reminiscent of tracks for playing sound. That is, they look like vinyl records and perhaps contain the sounds of ancient people, nature, or even something alien. Most intriguingly, the grooves on the discs contain microscopic characters that resemble hieroglyphs. Researchers say these symbols may be a form of ancient writing encoded in spiral patterns. Translations by some scholars suggest that the discs may tell of an ancient civilization known as the Drapa, which may have had contact with extraterrestrial beings. According to legend, the Dropa tribe arrived on Earth about 12,000 years ago from a distant star. But unfortunately, there are practically no artifacts left from them except these records. The Dropa discs remain one of the most mysterious archaeological finds, raising many questions about possible contacts between ancient people and aliens. Square structure on Mars. The Mars orbiter has recorded a mysterious square structure on the surface of Mars. The object with clear lines and correct angles has caused a flurry of discussions. Ufologists were quick to declare it an artifact of a vanished civilization, while skeptics urged not to rush to conclusions. Scientists believe that the reason for the appearance of the square could be very simple, from geological processes to a camera defect. As an example, they cite square formations in Tasmania that appeared as a result of erosion. However, conspiracy theorists are not satisfied with such explanations. They compare the find with the Egyptian pyramids and fantasize about ancient Martians. Elon Musk also responded to the discussion, suggesting sending astronauts to sniff out everything on the spot. Meanwhile, social media users found out that the photos were edited to enhance the effect. Nevertheless, even in the original photo you can see a square. Is this an illusion, a technical error, or something truly unusual? Charles Fort and the Hunt for Anomalies. When you look up at the sky and see something strange, you are not alone. 100 years ago, there was a man who dedicated his life to such moments. His name was Charles Fort. He did not look for evidence, he collected oddities, anything that did not fit into science. Rains of fish, flashes of light in the sky, disappearances of people, reports of mysterious objects. He did not explain, he just wrote down, because he knew. Sometimes the facts themselves are more terrible than any theory. Fort was someone who did not believe in either science or religion because both ignored the inconvenient. And it is in these inconvenient that the most interesting lives. He said between facts and fantasy there is a zone where everything is possible. And this zone is real. We just do not know how to look there. His books were read secretly as if it were forbidden. His ideas inspired dozens of films and TV series, from The Twilight Zone to The X-Files. He was the first to show that anomalies are not stupidities, but a misunderstood part of reality. You don't have to believe. The main thing is not to close your eyes. Now his work is continued by millions. Every time someone writes on the internet, "I saw a glowing object, it hung in the sky and disappeared," this is Forteanism. A culture in which the strange is a reason to explore, not to reject. But there is a flip side. We increasingly doubt everything and less know what to believe. And this is no longer just a hunt for anomalies. It is already a symptom. A giant complex of ancient settlements. Using modern technology, archaeologists from University College Dublin, together with Serbian and Slovenian colleagues, have made a significant discovery. They discovered many previously unknown Bronze Age settlements in the southern Carpathian Basin near Serbia. Analysis of satellite images and aerial photography made it possible to reconstruct the ancient landscape and discover a network of megaforts, huge prehistoric structures. These megaforts, previously known from sites such as Gradiste Ios, Kanad Palota, Santana, and Cornesti Iarkuri, were previously considered isolated. However, new research has shown that they actually form a complex network. In its heyday, tens of thousands of people could live here. These sites, located along the Tisa River, were discovered in an area where almost all settlements are within 5 kilometers of each other. Scholars believe that local communities interacted peacefully with each other and were important centers in Europe during the Mycenaean, Hittite, and New Kingdom Egyptian eras. Lost fortress in the Sahara. In the 17th century, among the endless sands of the Sahara, a mysterious ancient fortress was discovered. Scientists who examined the find were stunned by its complex architecture and the unusual technologies that were thought to have been used in its construction. According to the records of that time, the fortress had unique features: massive walls carved from an unknown but incredibly durable material, and complex water systems, the level of which was nothing like it in the known history of mankind at that time. This gave rise to speculation that it could have been built by representatives of an unknown, highly developed civilization, or even with the help of alien technology. But before scientists could study and document this amazing find in detail, the fortress was again buried under thick sand due to a sudden storm. Since then, its exact location has remained a mystery. Despite many expeditions trying to find the fortress, it was never discovered again. This case has attracted the attention of many researchers and mystery lovers. One can only guess what secrets this lost fortress holds. Could it really have been created using technology superior to our own, or is it proof of the existence of a forgotten ancient civilization? Sphere over the runway. Harton Airport is small, local, one runway, a couple of hangars, a cornfield next door. The first reports come in on the night of June 3rd. The dispatcher sees a bright ball the size of a passenger car on the cameras hanging at the end of the runway. The anti-collision system issues an alarm, but the radar shows nothing. 5 minutes later, the ball sharply goes up, and that's it. No traces, no overheating of the sensors, no interference with communications. They wrote it off as a glare from the searchlight. 2 days later, the story repeats itself during the day. This time, the ball is caught by the lens of a technician's phone who is just checking the navigation lights. The video is simple. Blue sky, a strip, a white sphere hanging about 20 meters from the ground, as if it were held by a transparent cable. Then, a jerk at an angle of almost 90 degrees, the object goes behind the clouds in a split second. The third appearance is the night before a thunderstorm. The sphere flashes brighter than the lights. The color is cold white. The pilot on duty swears that he saw a thin light beam from the ball to the end of the runway, as if it was scanning the surface. A thunderstorm covered the airfield literally 10 minutes later. In the morning, engineers check the equipment. Nothing. The cameras are intact. The electrics are normal. The radar, as before, did not record anything. The airport management calls security, they call the military, but the report is short. No violations detected, object not identified. And here's what's strange. The ball always appears only at one specific mark, where the concrete turns into old asphalt from the time of the military strip of the 60s. Geologists, who arrived at the request of journalists, find an anomaly in the magnetic field under this joint, as if there is a large metal block 10 meters deep. No conclusions. Planes continue to land and take off. Dispatchers log visual contact with an unidentified luminous object every day. 3 times a week is too many to be a coincidence, and too little data to call it technology. Mutant in space. A new species of bacteria has been discovered on board the Chinese space station. Its name is Nealia tiangongensis. It looks like an ordinary microorganism, but genetic analysis has shown that it has not only adapted to the conditions of weightlessness and radiation, it has changed. Its ability to create a protective biofilm, adapt to an aggressive environment, and survive where other forms of life die puts it apart from other bacteria on Earth. Research has shown that the microbiome on the Chinese station is different from that on the ISS. In composition, behavior, and reaction, the conditions have changed the bacteria so much that they no longer fit into familiar biology. They have become something else. And this raises questions not only for microbiologists. What if space conditions do not simply adapt life, but transform it? And what if similar forms already exist beyond Earth, and they are the ones adjusting the environment to themselves and not the other way around? If bacteria can mutate into something new in a matter of months, what happens to those who spend years in space? We've been under surveillance for a long time. If we're looking for signals, it's logical to assume that someone might be looking for us too, but what if they've already found us? In 2020, a group of astronomers published a study that changed the very formulation of the question. Scientists from Cornell University studied the Earth's neighborhoods and identified 1,004 star systems from which we can watch our planet pass across the sun's disk. That is, see the Earth the way we see exoplanets. Their main conclusion is simple. If there is intelligent life in one of these systems, they might know right now that we're here. Moreover, 508 of these star systems are located in such a way that the Earth would be visible against the sun for more than 10 hours at a time, enough to notice an atmosphere with oxygen, methane, and, perhaps, signs of life. They could have spotted us thousands of years ago, watched, waited, or maybe they've already sent a signal that's still on its way. The SETI project is a global network of radio telescopes tracking anomalies and signals from the depths of space. We have listened to thousands of systems, but so far, silence. Modern scientists are cautious but not skeptical. No one laughs at those who say maybe we are not alone, because the number of habitable planets is billions. Too much evidence. Fall 2024. The Pentagon publishes a new report on unidentified phenomena. The table shows 757 episodes in just 1 year. More than half were recorded by military pilots. Strange balls on the radar, dark cubes in a transparent shell, objects that go against the wind and sharply go up. Some cases are explained in the usual way: satellite debris, drones, optics. but about a third fall into the no data for identification column. This means that neither the speed nor the trajectory can be clearly understood because the devices behave as if they are not looking at a material object. The Ministry of Defense says honestly, there are no signs of aliens, but this is exactly the same wording that has been heard for 70 years. The problem remains. The Navy and the Air Force see something regularly. Cameras and thermal imagers record all this, but there is nothing to explain it with. Pilots say, at first you think, a glitch. Then you see the radar spot make a 90-degree angle at the speed of a passenger jet. Such reports used to be buried in safes. Now they are printed in open reports. They just changed the names. And strange arithmetic occurs. The more accurate the sensors become, the more often they catch something for which we have no name. It seems that the sky is silent only when we are not looking too closely. Again, the same recipe. Fear, technology, myth. We see it under the pyramid and on the Pentagon radar. Dragon houses and Mount Ohai. The dragon houses on the island of Euboea in Greece are mysterious megalithic structures that amaze with their massiveness and precision. These ancient structures, built from huge stone blocks without the use of binding mortar, date back to around the 8th century BC. Legends associate dragon houses with the gods, particularly Zeus, and describe them as places of sacred rituals and the habitat of ancient dragons who guard these territories. Mount Ohai, where some of the dragon houses are located, is considered a place of contact with the gods due to its remoteness and majestic location. In ancient Greek mythology, mountains were often associated with the abodes of the gods and places of their manifestations. This mountain, towering above the surrounding landscape, could be perceived as a sacred place where divine meetings and rituals took place. Archaeologists face many difficulties when studying these megalithic structures. One of the main mysteries is how the ancient builders were able to transport and lay such huge stone blocks on the tops of the mountains. The logistics and technical aspects of their construction remain unclear, especially given the lack of modern tools and equipment. There is also no exact data on the time and purpose of the construction of these structures, which complicates their study and interpretation. According to legend, Zeus used these places for his meetings with people and other gods. The dragons mentioned in legends could be symbols of his strength and protection of sacred places. There is a theory that the dragon houses could be places of contact with aliens. Proponents of this hypothesis argue that the unusual architecture and precise geometry of these buildings indicate the possible influence of extraterrestrial civilizations. They believe that the ancient Greeks may have interpreted encounters with aliens as contacts with the gods, which was reflected in their myths and legends. Martian meteorites. Hello from space. Seriously, these rocks came to us straight from Mars. It sounds unbelievable, but it's a scientific fact. How did pieces of the red planet end up on Earth? It all started with a giant impact. Either an asteroid or a comet collided with Mars, throwing fragments of rock into space. Due to the planet's weak gravity, 2.5 times less than Earth's, the debris escaped Mars and went on an interplanetary journey. Some took millions of years to reach Earth. One of the largest meteorites is Tau Denis 002, found in Mali in 2021. Its weight is 14.5 kilograms. And the most famous is the Allen Hills meteorite, discovered in Antarctica. It arrived 13,000 years ago, and inside it, scientists found possible traces of Martian life. Fossilized bacteria. The theory of extraterrestrial origin of life requires strong evidence. In the mid-20th century, scientists began studying meteorites in the hope of finding traces of alien microorganisms in them. However, the results were ambiguous. In 1965, seeds were found in the Orgueil meteorite, but it soon turned out to be a fake. In 1996, NASA announced that fossilized bacteria were found in the Allen Hills 84001 meteorite, which arrived from Mars. However, many scientists believe that this could be the result of chemical processes. Although there is no convincing evidence for the panspermia theory, it is known that some microorganisms are able to survive in space. For example, the bacterium Streptococcus mitis accidentally survived the flight to the moon and back on board Apollo 12. In 2008, an experiment on the ISS showed that bacteria can exist in outer space for more than a year. Nobel laureate Francis Crick suggested that life may have been intentionally spread by an advanced civilization. Perhaps in the future, humanity itself will seed life on other planets. Religion, UFOs, and space mythology. Today, we divide the world into believers and skeptics, but there is one area where faith and science are strangely intertwined. This is ufology. Essentially, UFOs are a new form of an old religion, only instead of gods, creatures from other star systems. Belief in aliens has become what belief in angels used to be. They come from the sky, they are higher in intelligence than us, and often bring revelations. Philosopher Paul Kurtz called ufology the mythology of the space age. He said people need to feel that they are not alone, that someone is watching and perhaps guiding us. In the past, God did this. Today, space brothers. Psychologist Carl Jung wrote back in the 50s that UFO images are projections of the collective unconscious. Like if in antiquity a person saw a shining angel in the sky, today he will see an alien ship there. The only difference is in the cultural interpretation, but the archetype is the same. Contact with something higher. But there are those who have gone further. Since the 70s, real UFO religions have begun to appear in the world. For example, the movement of Rael, the founder of the Temple of the Elohim. He claimed that he personally met aliens and even visited their planet. And there are dozens of such movements. People sincerely believe that we are a product of genetic engineering created by an extraterrestrial civilization. Some are waiting for the second coming, some the return of their creators.
Monolith on Phobos. Phobos, one of the two moons of Mars, hides an amazing secret, a giant monolith. This monolith, about 85 meters high, was first discovered in images taken by spacecraft. Its size and correct shape raise many questions among scientists. Some researchers suggest that the monolith may be an artificial structure left behind by an ancient alien civilization. This hypothesis is based on its unusual geometry and isolation from other geological forms on the surface of Phobos. The monolith looks like it was deliberately placed in this location. This discovery caused heated discussions in the scientific community and gave rise to many theories. Some believe the monolith may be an ancient beacon or marker left behind for future space explorers. Others see it as possible evidence of alien activity in our solar system. Nazis and reptiles. The history of World War II is increasingly going beyond the usual. One of the most discussed sources is U.S. Navy engineer William Tompkins, who published his memoirs 2 years before his death, claiming that back in the 1940s, American intelligence knew that the Nazis had made contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. According to him, the Germans interacted with two types of creatures, Nordic, human-like, and reptilian, more aggressive, possessing technologies that allowed the Third Reich to develop the first prototypes of flying machines. These technologies allegedly partially fell into the hands of the United States thanks to a network of spies within the Nazi military-industrial complex. Based on this information, Tompkins claims a secret program associated with the MJ-12 group was launched in the United States, and the development of the first space fleet began. The work was carried out by such companies as Douglas Aircraft and Northrop. He paid special attention to Maria Orsic, a medium of the Vril Society, who, according to him, received the plans through telepathic contact with the Aldebaran system. Orsic worked independently, but in parallel with the Nazis already collaborating with another, more influential side. In one of his last interviews, Tompkins claimed that the astronauts who first landed on the moon found it occupied. Creatures, similar to reptiles, were allegedly in orbit and controlled certain zones. According to his version, the moon is an artificial object, and some of these creatures can change their appearance, infiltrating the structures of power. He also hinted that some world leaders could be connected with these programs. After one of his speeches, Tompkins suddenly died. Some considered him a fantasist, others a witness who told too much. Flying chariots. Ancient Indian poems describe flying machines as if they were reports on modern technology. In the Ramayana, Prince Rama rises into the sky in the Pushpaka Vimana. The body is shiny. The windows are illuminated. The craft takes off vertically, like the sun, raised by thought. In the Mahabharata, two Vimanas engage in battle, release metal arrows that resound like thunder, and depart, leaving behind a tail of fire. Later, in the Samarangana Sutradhara, 11th century, King Bhoja suddenly speaks in almost technical language. Inside the Vimana, there is a mercury chamber surrounded by iron rings. When the mercury is heated, a force is created that carries the device through the air. Scholars argue how much of these texts is real memory and how much is poetic metaphor. But the details are striking. the mention of Mercury as a working fluid, the description of a vertical takeoff, a separate shield to protect the passenger from the heat. On the frescoes of Ellora and the walls of Angkor, you can see streamlined capsules with a cone of fire below, too similar to a jet stream to be an accident. Skeptics remind us the manuscripts are late, they could have been forged by alchemists. Mercury has always been a symbol of immortality for the Indians. But why then do they depict not gods on a cloud in the temples, but clearly mechanical machines? So far, not a single archaeologist has found material details of the Vimana, but the legends are alive. In India today, they say that heavenly chariots will return when people again understand the language of metal and mercury. Perhaps a hint that the technology is still stored somewhere.
Sphinx from Mars. The Sphinx from Mars was discovered in 1976 during archaeological excavations in Egypt. This unique figurine, only 10 centimeters high, has amazed scientists with its strange resemblance to the famous Martian Sphinx, depicted in photographs taken by the Viking 1 space probe. The figurine was found in a tomb dated to the 3rd dynasty of the pharaohs, and it was part of an ancient collection of artifacts. It was engraved with symbols and signs that did not look like traditional Egyptian hieroglyphs and which have not yet been deciphered. Many scientists and UFO researchers began to speculate that the figurine could be evidence of contact between the ancient Egyptians and extraterrestrial civilizations. According to some theories, the Sphinx from Mars was a kind of key or device for communicating with cosmic beings. Ancient texts found near the artifact spoke of gods from heaven who supposedly visited Earth in ancient times. There is a version that it was these gods who gave the figurine to the pharaohs. The Sphinx from Mars continues to attract the attention of scientists and paranormal enthusiasts. Some consider it to be irrefutable proof of the existence of extraterrestrial life, while skeptics argue that this is just a coincidence and an interesting archaeological artifact.
The return of the Utsuro-bune. There is a strange entry in Japanese chronicles from 1803. Fishermen from the village of Hariyakihara pulled a round lacquered boat the size of a small room out of the water. Inside was a young woman in bright clothes, copper-colored hair, an incomprehensible inscription on the side, and a tightly sealed box that she did not allow anyone to open. The story was quickly added to the local archive, accompanied by drawings, and the object, along with the guest, according to legend, was silently lowered back into the sea. For almost 2 centuries, the event remained folklore, until in 2024, the Ibaraki National Museum found 7 forgotten engravings made by eyewitnesses in a private collection. In them, the boat does not look like a barrel, but like a neat disc with portholes, and the writing along the side resembles a mixture of Sanskrit and Arabic. The museum exhibited the found engravings next to a neat copy of the boat, a disc slightly more than 2 meters, with round windows and a narrow entrance hatch. Scientists argue, some say that before us is an experimental wooden boiler of the Edo era. Others insist that the shape and hermetic assembly are not similar to any known Japanese ship of that time. The story has once again left folklore and entered the field of scientific discussions. And the main one is, could the original lie on the bottom to this day, preserving the secret of the copper box, which the girl never opened? Treasures of Atlantis under the Sphinx. Egyptologist Roman Orikoff, a member of the International Association of Egyptologists, spoke about the low probability of discovering secret halls and treasures of Atlantis under the Egyptian pyramids. He recalled that the pyramids have been studied for centuries, and if there was something there, scientists would have found it long ago. The theme of secret chambers under the pyramids and the Sphinx at Giza arose thanks to the American mystic Edgar Cayce in the early 20th century. And although excavations have been attempted in the past, nothing similar has been discovered. Now, the Egyptian authorities prohibit such research, which confirms the absence of hidden rooms. The Egyptologist also focuses on the difference in the concept of treasure between modernity and the past. For the ancient Egyptians, who lived in conditions where the main clothing was a loincloth, modern ideas about treasures do not correspond to reality. Separately mentioned is the theory of Egyptologist Farouk Elbaz about the natural origin of the Great Sphinx. Construction expert Fyodor Vasiliev considers it logical, noting that the main material of the sculpture is limestone, which in itself is not very durable. In his opinion, erosion could only form general outlines, and further detailing was carried out by ancient craftsmen. I told you about this in the previous video. The government is secretly in contact with aliens. Recently, UFO claims have surfaced, including from Mexico, where alien remains were allegedly found. It turned out that these were just dummies, but rumors about UFOs continue to spread online. Some believe in the control of the planet by unknown forces, while others perceive this as a distraction from real problems. Interest in UFOs was also fueled by former U.S. Navy Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, who stated the connection between the American government and non-human intelligence. According to him, they are silent about this in order to hide top-secret technologies that can give an advantage in a military conflict. He calls for disclosure of information about contact with non-human intelligence. On the other hand, Elon Musk is skeptical about the idea of aliens existing in our part of the galaxy. He believes that in the next couple of hundred years, humanity will not be able to reach long distances in space, and that aliens are unlikely to be interested in a small planet on the outskirts of the galaxy. Musk is confident that human consciousness is a unique phenomenon and must be preserved. These statements by influential individuals fuel interest in the topic of UFOs, although they do not provide concrete facts. The surprising thing is that people in ancient times were interested in alien objects, and they saw UFOs and aliens in everything. As they say, there is no smoke without fire. Therefore, it is impossible to be 100% sure that there are no alien objects or creatures on our planet. What do you think? Write your opinion in the comments under the video. Could the US government have any contact with extraterrestrial life today?
Cave paintings of Valcamonica. In the Valcamonica Valley located in northern Italy, there are over 200,000 cave paintings created by various cultures over the past 8,000 years. These engravings provide unique evidence of ancient civilizations, depicting their rituals, social structure, and daily life. However, among the many traditional images of animals, dancing people, and symbols, there are several engravings that are of particular interest to researchers. Some of them look like figures dressed in strange costumes, reminiscent of spacesuits with details similar to helmets, antennas, and other devices. These drawings have given rise to much speculation. Some argue that they may have been created after contact between the ancient inhabitants of Valcamonica and alien civilizations. Such theories often rely on the appearance of these figures, arguing that ancient people may have depicted extraterrestrial beings or even astronauts they encountered. However, most scholars are inclined to believe that these engravings may represent ritual or symbolic images, perhaps associated with religious beliefs or rituals of the time. Here, scientists always have one opinion. If a find cannot be explained, it means it is connected either with something extraterrestrial or with an ancient ritual. They were looking at the sky long before us. If you think that the history of UFOs began with the flying saucers of the 40s, you've missed a couple of millennia. Sumerian priests, 2nd millennium BC, write down in cuneiform black meteors changing shape. For them, these are divine signs, but the essence is familiar. Something appears in the sky, and there are no words for it. Nuremberg, April 14th, 1561. At dawn, residents see an air battle. Hundreds of balls, crosses, and a black dart falling beyond the city walls. Artist Hans Glaser carves the scene on a sheet of paper. The true meaning is known only to God. We would call it a mass UFO sighting, but back then it was an omen. Mount Rainier, June 24, 1947. Pilot Kenneth Arnold reports 9 shiny objects jumping like saucers on the water. Newspapers confuse the metaphor and introduce the word flying saucer into circulation. Thus begins the modern era of UFOs. 3,500 years have passed from signs to newspapers, and the questions are still the same. What flies above our heads, and why does each generation see this as its own sign? Object near the Sun. A picture taken by the Lascaux Solar Telescope clearly shows a structure that defies explanation. It appears against the background of the Sun's corona and resembles not just an abstract silhouette, but something concrete, a giant bird with spread wings or an apparatus leaving a trail behind. This is not an illusion. According to scientists' calculations, the span of its wings is about 150,000 kilometers. This is more than 10 times the diameter of the Earth. The object was located at an altitude of about 2 million kilometers above the surface of the Sun. It did not move in orbit, did not burn up in the atmosphere, and did not have a visible trajectory corresponding to the solar wind or gravitational forces. The
The Solar Astronomy Laboratory of the Space Research Institute of the Russian Academy of Sciences called such images extremely rare and almost never repeated, but even they did not give a clear answer. What exactly we saw? Some researchers believe that this could be an optical artifact or a plasma ejection that has taken a bizarre shape. But then why is its shadow so structured? Why does the object have symmetry, a visual center, and most importantly, movement? It seems as if we were observing not an emission, but a flight, and not a natural phenomenon, but something created.
How UFOs became a new religion. We live in a world where aliens are no longer science fiction, but almost a habit. Memes, movies, YouTube, Telegram channels, merch. Aliens are not just a topic. They are a cultural phenomenon that has long gone beyond ufology. But how did this happen? It all started in the 20th century, with books, rumors, and strange reports where miraculously surviving footage allegedly showed alien corpses, and classified sources surfaced with confessions about experiments in Area 51. Then there were talk shows, investigations, documentaries, scandals, and all of this ceased to be marginal. It became mainstream. For example, the fake footage of the autopsy of the alien from Roswell, a complete fake made in the 90s, collected millions of ratings. It was exposed. So what? This only strengthened the fans' faith. Aha, so there must be truth if they're trying so hard to hide it. Charles Fort, the father of this whole movement, said back at the beginning of the century, "Science rejects too much, and official explanations are not always the truth." His ideas inspired entire generations of anomaly hunters. He said, if strange things happen, it means we have the wrong picture of the world. Today, science, politics, religion, everything causes skepticism. But aliens? For some reason, they are believed. Even more than governments. Reality seems to have changed. UFOs are a new mythology, a new religion. Only instead of angels, grays, instead of prophets, contactees. Instead of sacred books, leaked forums, TikTok, and leaked reports. And you know what's scariest? This belief already controls society. In 2023, the U.S. Congress seriously discussed the topic of UFOs. Hearings, reports, generals on the podium. And no one laughed, because the meme became reality. In this world where everything can be fake, aliens became a symbol of the truth. Or the search for it. Paradoxical, but true. Elements of life in asteroid samples. NASA analyzed samples from the asteroid Bennu returned by the OSIRIS-REx mission and found organic compounds in them that are key to the origin of life. The findings include amino acids, ammonia, and formaldehyde, which could have been involved in chemical reactions that led to the formation of proteins and DNA. Scientists have confirmed that the samples contain 14 of the 20 amino acids used by living organisms on Earth. They have also found minerals that indicate the possible presence of water. These findings strengthen the hypothesis that asteroids like Bennu could have delivered important components to Earth for the emergence of life. Wolf's Egg Artifact. In 1885, a worker named Rydell discovered a mysterious artifact about 60 million years old known as the Wolf's Egg iron. He found it in a block of brown coal at a foundry in Austria. This metal object embedded in the coal caused great surprise among the worker and his colleagues. They donated the find to the local museum. In 1886, geology professor Adolf Hurlt suggested that the artifact came from outer space. However, further research showed that the artifact did not contain nickel, chromium, or cobalt, ruling out a meteorite origin. In 1973, analysis by Dr. Hubert Matlianer showed that the artifact was made using the lost wax casting method, suggesting that it was artificially created. The artifact is a nearly cubic shape measuring 67 by 47 mm and weighing 785 grams, made of solid steel. Its edges were sharp and straight, indicating its machine origin. Some experts believe that it was a fragment of a much larger tool. The find gave rise to theories about the existence of an ancient advanced civilization on Earth millions of years ago. And although many thought it had disappeared, the artifact is still kept in the Heimathaus Museum in Vöcklabruck, but is no longer on public display.
Remote View. Project Stargate is a secret program launched by the CIA in the 1970s to study and apply the phenomenon of remote viewing, also known as remote sensing. Remote viewing is the ability of a person to obtain information about distant or inaccessible objects, places, or events without the use of conventional sensory means. Project Stargate was created to explore the use of this ability for intelligence purposes, including the study of UFOs. The project used various methods such as hypnosis, meditation, and other techniques to put participants into altered states of consciousness where they could receive information. These methods have been used to study UFOs and search for signs of extraterrestrial activity. One of the key participants in the project was Pat Price, a former police officer with exceptional abilities in the field of remote viewing. Pat Price made several important discoveries, especially regarding features beneath Mount Hayes in Alaska. He claimed to have seen an underground base there controlled by aliens and described detailed structures and technologies that were supposedly located in this base. These claims have generated great interest and controversy among researchers. Several CIA documents contain references to such bases and confirm that Price provided information that was partially corroborated by other intelligence sources. However, no direct and unambiguous evidence of the existence of an alien base has been found, and many aspects of these claims remain controversial. Remote viewing is used for reconnaissance and research of UFOs, providing information about places that cannot be explored using traditional methods. For example, remote viewers can describe the internal structures of spaceships or bases that are inaccessible to physical observation. The death of Pat Price in 1975 under mysterious circumstances adds an element of danger to the work of remote viewers. Price's death has sparked much speculation and conspiracy theories, suggesting that he may have been eliminated due to his knowledge and abilities. The mystery of the ruins of Nan Madol. Nan Madol Ruins is a unique ancient city in Micronesia, located on artificial islands in a lagoon off the coast of Pohnpei. This mysterious complex, built from giant basalt blocks, is a complex system of canals and structures built on more than 90 artificial islands. The age of the structures is estimated at more than 1,000 years, and their purpose still remains unclear. The structure and construction technology of Nan Madol are striking in their scale and complexity. Some blocks weigh up to 50 tons, and it is still unknown how the ancient builders moved and laid them with such precision. This mystery has given rise to many hypotheses, including speculation about possible extraterrestrial knowledge or technology used in construction. Legends of local residents speak of magic and supernatural forces used in the construction of the city. The ruins of Nan Madol continue to be one of the most mysterious archaeological finds in the world, attracting the attention of both scientists and mystery lovers. Surrounded by water and myth, this ancient city offers a unique window into the past and raises questions about possible contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. As you can see, in our history there are many secrets and unexplained phenomena that lead us to believe in the existence of alien life in the past and the contact of our ancestors with extraterrestrial civilization. Do you believe in the existence of something like this? Write your opinion in the comments under the video.
When we hear the word UFO, the 20th century immediately pops into our heads. Roswell, movies, tinfoil hats. But the truth is that people saw unidentified objects long before the era of television and aviation. We have documented cases dating back to the times of ancient Rome. Chronicles recorded fiery shields, flying ships, strange creatures descending from the sky, and even abductions in the clouds. All this was recorded not by science fiction writers, but by historians, monks, and officials. In the 4th century AD, the Roman chronicler Julius Obsequent describes dozens of such cases in his book Liber Prodigiorum. Flaming spheres, glowing ships, and creatures descending from the sky were allegedly seen over Rome. At least this is how eyewitnesses perceived it. Pliny the Elder also mentions a mysterious burning shield that hovered over the city during the Second Punic War. And this is not an isolated case. Similar descriptions are found in the chronicles of Ireland, China, India. What was it? A coincidence in symbolism? A mass hallucination? Or did we really observe the same phenomenon? Just call it differently in different eras? Once upon a time, they were gods then, angels. Today, aliens. But the essence is probably the same.
Sphere from Colombia. In March 2025, a metal sphere fell from the sky over the city of Buga in Colombia. Weight about 2 kilograms, temperature below expectations. Inside, 13 microspheres surrounding a dense core. Layers, similar to metal but without traces of welding or connections. Scientists are studying all this, but one fact already raises questions. The the object does not look like an earthly one. Radiologist Jose Luis Velasquez said he did not find signs indicating human production. The structure is solid, the material is three-layered, the source is unknown. But skeptics are not silent, and many claim that the pattern on the object was generated by artificial intelligence. The lines are uneven, the design is too human. Plus, Jaime Maussan, a famous ufologist whose previous statements about aliens turned out to be unproven, has appeared in the story again. So far, no one has given a clear answer. But the question remains, if this is not satellite debris, not part of a rocket, and not a fake, then what exactly fell to Earth then, and why now? Ghost ships in the air. I want to tell you about two of the most famous ghost ships from the Norwegian sagas. The first case is the Trøndelag Fjord around 875. Fishermen were pulling their nets and suddenly saw a drakkar right above the tops of the pine trees. It was moving quietly, without wind. The sail glowed bluish, as if illuminated from within. One guy, not believing his eyes, threw a harpoon. The rope tensed as if it had caught something heavy, but at the same moment the ship became transparent and dissolved. The harpoon plopped back onto the grass, wet as if it had broken through the fog. The second episode happened 3 centuries later on the island of Klosterøy. It was Sunday lunch. People were in church. Suddenly a small ship hung over the roof. The boards and mast were translucent like smoke in the sun. The anchor dropped and tenaciously clung to the roof. A sailor came down from the hatch, but he moved strangely, as if the air around him was thick. The priest told the parishioners not to panic and to help. The men climbed onto the roof, lifted the anchor, and immediately the ship was pulled upward. The sailor climbed up the chain, the drakkar slowly went into the clouds and disappeared. Scientists explain these stories in earthly terms, mirages, fata morganas, or bright northern lights that people drew to the familiar shape of a ship. But in both stories, there are too many everyday details. A sail, a rope, the weight of iron in their hands. Therefore, for folklore, these are not just lights in the sky, but real encounters with something foreign, translated into the language of sailors. Legends have lived for more than 1,000 years. Sometimes in Norway, they still say that before a storm over the fjord, you can see a drakkar that goes not on the water, but right in the sky.
Petrified soldiers. What would you think if I told you that a UFO was shot down in the USSR and 23 soldiers literally turned to stone? No, this is not an excerpt from science fiction. This is a fragment of a declassified CIA document that ended up in an archive after the collapse of the Soviet Union. The location is not specified. The time is the end of the 80s. Soviet troops conduct training exercises. A low-flying object similar to a disc-shaped ship appears in the sky. One salvo and it is shot down. The ship falls near a military unit. A few minutes later, 5 creatures emerge from it. Short, with disproportionately large heads and black eyes, they merge into a single object. A high-frequency buzz is heard, a flash, and everyone who was nearby is petrified. 2 survivors were standing in the shadows. Later, according to the report, the remains of the soldiers and the wreckage of the ship were delivered to a secret scientific base near Moscow. The researchers allegedly found out that the structure of the bodies resembles limestone. It's as if their molecules had been rewritten. Mainstream science would call this nonsense, of course. But the CIA document says it in black and white. If this is true, we are dealing with beings with technologies beyond our understanding. UFOs are not the 20th century.
Man-made giant under the ice. Under the thickness of Antarctic ice at a depth of several kilometers, scientists have recorded a structure that cannot be accidental. The length is 300 kilometers. The shape is geometrically precise. The density is comparable to metal. Nature does not create such objects. The discovery was made by an international team led by geophysicist Andrew Carlson. Satellite data and radar showed something that resembles either an artificial structure or an unsolved catastrophe of past eras. The scientist himself admits, "This can change everything we know about our planet." There are few versions. Either it is a ship or a city or a natural anomaly that should not exist. Some suggest that perhaps we are talking about the remains of a prehistoric civilization or an extraterrestrial one. Drilling is impossible for now, but a new expedition is being prepared. And if it is allowed, perhaps we will touch for the first time on what has been lying under the ice and silent all these years.
Iranian interceptors and UFOs. On the night of September 18, 1976, a mysterious event occurred in the skies over Tehran, which went down in history as the Tehran Incident. A report on this incident was sent to several U.S. agencies at once: the State Department, the CIA, the Pentagon, and the NSA. It all started with an alarming call to the commander of the Iranian Air Force. The controller observed an unknown object in the sky which was not listed in either the civilian or military registers. An F-4 Phantom fighter was raised, but as it approached the target, the communications and onboard systems failed, and the pilot was forced to retreat. The second interceptor encountered an even stranger phenomenon. A cylinder separated from a large luminous object and headed straight for the aircraft. Lieutenant Parviz Jafari tried to open fire, but the weapon system failed, as did the ejection seat. Only when it began to move away did the equipment work again. There were many eyewitnesses to the incident: military personnel, airport dispatchers, passengers of the Egyptian airliner. The object was recorded by radars and even an Iranian satellite. This case remains one of the most documented in the history of ufology. Whether to believe in UFOs or not is a personal question, but those who saw it with their own eyes have no doubts.
Where do saucers most often land? Amazing fact: 4 out of 10 UFO reports come from the USA. Why there and not, say, from Chad or Mongolia? The first reason is the sky and the grid. America has placed radars literally every mile. The military has its own, airports have their own, meteorologists have a separate league. The denser the sensor grid, the more fish get caught in the net. The second is the habit of filming everything. When Americans see a bright ball, they don't run after their neighbors, but take out their phones, filmed it, uploaded it to TikTok, and added the hashtag UFO. While in other countries people are still arguing whether there was an object, the video is already trending. The third reason is the black deserts of the tests. At night over Nevada and Utah, they test what they will show the world in 10 years. Black triangles, stealth, silent drones, predators, returning gliders. From the ground, people see only a dark silhouette illuminated by the moon, and the imagination draws a smooth disc. Click, and a video with the caption "Alien Craft" is already flying into the feed. The fourth is the cultural background. Comics since childhood, The Secret Testing Ground, Area 51, the series The X-Files. In the head, there is already a ready-made name for any strange point in the sky. In Nicaragua, the same light pillar will be called Evil Spirit. In Japan, Foxfire, and in California right away, UFO. The result is simple. The more cameras and the brighter the pop culture, the higher the harvest of saucers. It turns out that aliens love the United States not because there is convenient parking there, but because they are looked at more often and documented more often there.
UFOs of the Third Reich. If the whole conversation about ancient UFOs seems too mythical, then this story is closer to our time and much more frightening, because we will talk about technologies that were allegedly developed in Nazi Germany in the last years of the war, and about the secret that neither the Allies nor history could take away. The Nazis really did create incredible things, from the first ballistic missiles to jet aircraft. But there is a separate layer of theories according to which flying machines of unimaginable shape and power were developed in the hidden bunkers of the Reich. They are called Haunebu, Vril, and the most mysterious of them, Die Glocke, the bell. The bell is not just technology, it is a legend surrounded by rumors, disappearances, and strange deaths. According to rumors, the object was a metal machine about 4 meters high, shaped like a bell, which could distort space and time, an anti-gravity engine based on some black energy from which the project's employees died. Some claim that Die Glocke disappeared along with the SS elites who went to Antarctica to a mysterious zone called New Swabia. There, in the inaccessible icy depths, a base was allegedly built, from where a new era began. According to other versions, the bell was found by the Americans and transported to the United States, hence the strange leaps in technology after 1945. It is hard to believe until you start looking at memoirs, classified documents, and strange activity in the Antarctic region in the late 40s. Some even link it to Operation High Jump, the largest polar expedition of the U.S. military, the purpose of which was officially research, but according to unofficial data, the interception of surviving Nazis with UFO technology. Historians, of course, deny all this, but the question remains, where did dozens of scientists, engineers, and prototypes disappear to? Why is there so little information about this, even after almost 80 years?
Secrets of the Codex Gigas. The Codex Gigas, also known as the Devil's Bible, is an ancient manuscript that holds many mysteries. Created in the 13th century, it amazes with its size and content. Inside the book, you can find not only the texts of the Old and New Testaments, but also an image of the devil himself, which takes up an entire page. Most intriguing, however, are the astronomical maps, which appear unusually detailed for their time. This has given rise to many theories about the possible extraterrestrial origin of the knowledge used to create the Codex. Some researchers believe that the manuscript may contain encrypted messages or knowledge transmitted by alien civilizations. Legend has it that the Codex Gigas was written by a monk in one night with the help of the devil. What does this mysterious manuscript hide? And is it possible that its pages contain encrypted keys to ancient knowledge that came from outer space? The Codex Gigas remains one of the most mysterious artifacts of antiquity, which we will definitely study someday.
Mysterious photos. This photo raises many questions and controversies. It shows two mysterious figures, and some consider them proof of the existence of alien beings. On the left is a tiny creature with thin limbs, a large head, and characteristic almond-shaped eyes. Its skin has a strange color, as if covered with an iridescent film. On the right is another figure, preserved in a vessel with liquid, reminiscent of exhibits that can be found in scientific laboratories or anatomy museums. Such finds are often associated with conspiracy theories about UFO crashes, secret laboratories, and experiments. Some claim that these are proof of extraterrestrial life, while skeptics consider them skillfully made dummies or anatomical models. Are these artifacts real or just skillfully faked? The question remains open. But one thing is for sure, such images fuel interest in the mystery of extraterrestrial intelligence and make us wonder, what if we are not alone in the universe?
The first excavations of the sky. It was not scientific curiosity that was the first to stir, but the fear of the military. 1948. The U.S. Air Force launches Project Omen. The wording is simple. If we see something alien in the sky, report it immediately. The reports are classified as secret, and civilians are told one phrase, "It was a weather balloon." 1952. Omen is renamed Blue Book. At Wright-Patterson, 12,618 cases are accumulated. Some sheets are marked inexplicable, others too sensitive. The public is thrown a bone again. Optical illusion. 1969. The project is officially closed and stamped case closed, but only the lid is closed. 2007. A new department is opened in the bowels of the Pentagon. Advanced Air Anomaly Research. The funding is quiet, the reports are even quieter. 10 years later, senators will pull the tapes to the surface, and the military will admit, yes, we continued. The same steps for half a century. They saw a strange object. They collected the records, locked them in a safe, and hushed up the topic. The archive grows like cultural layers at an excavation site, only instead of shards, boxes with film marked secret. What worried people back in Sumerian times and continues to worry us even today? The only difference is the price. Today, one unknown costs as much money as would be enough to feed a small town.
Burial of the Heavenly Guest. In 1901, an expedition of British archaeologists, led by Lord William Campbell, was excavating one of the ancient tombs in the desert near the Giza pyramids. Having opened a massive sarcophagus, the researchers encountered a sensation. Inside was a mummy that was significantly different from all known remains of ancient Egypt. The creature was over 2.5 meters tall, and its skull was unusually elongated and narrow, reminiscent of images of gods on the walls of Egyptian temples. The bones were much denser than human bones, and their structure indicated increased strength, as if intended for life in different conditions. The strangest thing is that there were no traces of embalming or autopsy on the body, but it was perfectly preserved, as if it were in stasis. On the sarcophagus, archaeologists discovered engravings that mentioned a messenger of the stars who arrived during the time of the pharaohs. The hieroglyphs hinted at beings who descended from the sky and taught the ancient Egyptians architecture and astronomy. Some symbols resembled star maps, and the interior walls of the tomb depicted flying disc-shaped objects. The discovery gave rise to many theories, from an alternative history of Egypt's connection with extraterrestrial civilizations to speculation about a lost human race. However, shortly after its excavation, the artifact disappeared without a trace. It was sent to a private collection, and references to it were quickly erased from official records. Asteroid influence and contact with the gods. The asteroid, believed to have wiped out the dinosaurs some 66 million years ago, has left a significant mark on the Yucatan Peninsula. This impact created the Chicxulub crater, which is still an important geological feature. Although this cataclysm occurred long before the emergence of the Mayan civilization, its long-term geological and environmental consequences may have influenced the formation of the region in which the culture later developed. Archaeological finds, such as cities and buildings destroyed and buried under a layer of sediment, may indirectly confirm the theory of cataclysms that occurred in Yucatan. However, there is no direct evidence that the Mayans knew about the asteroid that destroyed the dinosaurs or had any information about them. The idea that the Mayans may have had contact with dinosaurs is scientifically unfounded. Dinosaurs went extinct long before the first humans appeared, not to mention the Mayan civilization. However, in mythology and their art, one can find depictions of creatures that can be interpreted as legendary or mythical animals, but this is not evidence of their actual contact with dinosaurs. Researchers sometimes find dinosaur fossils in Mesoamerica, but these findings date back to a time before human history. Such finds may be of interest to geologists and paleontologists, but they do not support the theory of Mayan contact with dinosaurs. Knowledge of ancient cataclysms may have been integrated into their mythology and beliefs, linking natural phenomena to the actions of the gods. The Mayans believed in cyclical time and recurring catastrophes, which may have been a reflection of their understanding of the past and prediction of future events.
Infiltrating Area 51. He wasn't looking for UFOs and didn't believe in aliens. He just wanted to follow the old gold diggers route through the Nevada desert. But that route led through a classified area where no one was allowed. Jerry Freeman, an anthropologist from California, became the man who, without knowing it, violated the boundaries of the most closed U.S. base and found himself at the center of one of the greatest mysteries of the 20th century. He walked at night, hiding from patrols, all in order to find the inscriptions left by the pioneers who died in 1849. But in the area of the dried-up Papoose Lake, he encountered a phenomenon that completely knocked him out of his usual reality. Right in the middle of the night desert, a hole opened up, emitting an intense blue light. The light did not dissipate, but seemed to gather into a pulsating core, above which lights floated, flickering, synchronous, clearly unnatural. According to Freeman, he felt a hum coming from underground and vibrations, as if something huge was coming to life right under him. It was not a mirage. It was not the technology of an army proving ground. Everything was too neat, too synchronized to be an accident. He stood in place, unable to move, and understood that if he was discovered, he would disappear forever. Later, he told about this to journalist George Knapp, the same one who in 1989 introduced the world to Bob Lazar and the S4 area. Since then, Jerry Freeman has remained the only one who not only got closer to the secrets of Area 51, but also managed to leave without becoming part of another military secret. Glass worms under Antarctica. In February 2025, the Japanese Chimu Ice Probe project drilled through the Ross Sea ice shelf. At a depth of 820 meters, the camera came across strange threads, transparent as thick as hair, stretching through ice crystals, bending like living ones. The probe tried to pick them up. The thread crunched and broke, leaving fragments like the thinnest glass. Chemical analysis showed almost pure quartz with microparticles of magnesium and sodium. Geologists know about silicate glasses in lava, but in deep ice and even at minus 20 degrees Celsius, no one expected this. The first version is that subglacial salt lakes emit silicic acid, which hardens and grows into fibers, a kind of natural process of fiber drawing, only at sub-zero temperatures. Another version is this. Under a thick ice cap, the pressure reaches approximately the same level as the ocean depth, and the shelf constantly trembles from tides and cracks. In these conditions, dissolved silicon could crystallize not as ordinary grains, but stretch into ultra-thin quartz fibers, a natural glass mineral, albeit extremely rare. But there is an interesting detail. The fiber structure is multi-layered. The core and shell are of different densities, as if made for the conductivity of light. literally a natural optical cable. In the laboratory, an infrared beam was passed through the thread, approximately at a wavelength of 1.3 microns, the same used in optical fiber. The light passed almost without loss. That is, this cable was formed by itself in nature, but behaves almost like a man-made optical fiber. For now, glass worms are geological exotica. But if we imagine that a warm hydrothermal jet once blew beneath the ice, it would be an ideal place for hidden bio or even techno activity. The team is already planning a second descent to take a long, whole sample and check for foreign impurities in the shell. If traces of organic matter are found, or more frighteningly, microbial backlighting, Antarctica could get its first real, rather than fantasy, cable of communication with other forms of life or engineering. Geoglyphs depicting cats. In Peru, archaeologists have discovered 29 previously unknown geoglyphs. These ancient earthen paintings found near the city of Ica depict cats and human figures. Researchers note that the geoglyphs date back to the period between 300 BC and 100 AD, which corresponds to the time of the Paracas and Nazca cultures. Using drones, archaeologists were able to discern 10 geoglyphs with figures of cats measuring 17 by 12 meters and 8 images of cats measuring 37 by 13 meters. The remaining images represent anthropomorphic figures. Scientists believe that for the ancient inhabitants of Paracas, cats were associated with water and fertility, and they worshipped them as deities. In 2020, a cat figure 37 meters long was found on the Nazca Plateau, which is more than 2,000 years old. As you can see, cats were loved and valued at the same time not only in ancient Egypt.
UFO in the USSR. At the end of the USSR and after its collapse, UFOs became a frequent topic of discussion. Residents regularly reported strange objects in the sky, special shows were shown on television, and urban myths circulated among people. Some UFO evidence involved secret missile tests that the general public was unaware of. In the 70s to 80s, stories about UFOs spread in the USSR. There were legends about a UFO crash in Yakutia in the 70s, a UFO explosion on the Kola Peninsula in 1981, and its destruction by a nuclear installation in Kazakhstan in 1983. Another story tells about mushroom pickers who allegedly photographed the interior of a flying saucer and then their traces were lost. There are even photographs that supposedly prove a UFO crash in the USSR, but upon closer examination they raise doubts. Soviet UFOs were more likely a manifestation of mass self-hypnosis rather than evidence of extraterrestrial civilizations. There have also been cases in the United States when UFOs were caught on video, including those filmed by the military. For example, in July 2019, an unidentified object was spotted near the USS Omaha. The Pentagon suggests that UFOs may be of extraterrestrial origin. Even astronauts on the ISS observed strange objects, but often these turned out to be satellites. In the United States, there is laser equipment capable of creating plasma images that are sometimes mistaken for UFOs. But even with all these explanations, some cases remain a mystery. What do you think is really behind the UFO phenomenon? Fantasy, technology, or something else? Write your versions under the video, and I will be glad if you subscribe to the channel and watch my next video, which I am already preparing for you. Thanks for your views. Bye, everyone.